To the CHGO White Sox post-game show, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
On this Sunday fun day. You having fun, Herb?
I am. Shirt says so I am having fun.
It must be so. You can follow him at Ectorwall23, our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox, and we'll be joined later on from Guaranteed Rate Field by CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinnie Duber, being produced today by Sarah.
Hello.
Hello. And if you want to join us, you want to be chatting with other White Sox fans like you can go join the Die Hard program at allchgo.com/diehard. You get nice specially priced merch, specially priced ticket events that you'll talk about a little bit later. The Luis Robert Jr. bobblehead they get?
Oh, just that box?
Oh, the box.
Maybe this hat if you want to buy it.
But
get discounts on the hats in the future and all merch.
You get to join the CHGO Discord as well, where you get to chat with us. So if anything breaking happens, you'll get our first reactions there. And I'm not sure what the protocol is. The Cubs made a big trade and they did an emergency podcast. Maybe we do an emergency podcast. Maybe we go right to the Discord. We would love to talk about anything besides White Sox baseball. Sox lose 6-3. They lose their 14th straight game. They get swept for the 16th time, and Pedro Grifol, as a manager, falls to 88 and 182.
He's coming
on his career.
He's coming for that 200 before that 100.
12 and 18.
Man, that's almost guaranteed.
I mean, once they lose 6 more games in a row, they're going to be at 12 and 12. He can't go 500.
No. I mean, their next team they play is the Royals, who they've beaten one time when they scored 2 runs and the Royals scored 1.
There you go.
That's it.
And they're going to be trading all their good pitchers. Or
apparently.
We think so.
Yeah. Hopefully. Somebody wake Chris Getz up so we can do so.
On this show, we'll be talking about Garrett Crochet, one of the guys that supposedly will get traded before July 30th's deadline, along with Erick Fedde. We'll talk to Vinnie Duber, who's at Guaranteed Rate Field, and we'll talk more about this horrible, bad baseball team. And Herb, you might be asking yourself,
I am.
How bad is this baseball team?
I did ask myself today, but I want to know this answer.
Well, there have only been 4 teams in Major League Baseball history with 2+ 14+ game losing streaks in the same season. So 2 14+ game losing streaks in the same season. Your Chicago White Sox are one of those teams. The 2024 White Sox from May 22nd to June 8th lost 14 games, and now from the second game of the doubleheader on July 10th to July 28th, they have lost 14 games and counting. The 2021 Orioles lost 14 games in 19 games in May and August. The 1935 Boston Braves from July lost 15 games, and in August to early September lost 14 games. And the 1911 Boston Statistics lost 14 straight games in May and 16 straight in July, leading into early August. So this is one of the, worst baseball teams. I mean, up there with the 1911 Boston Statistics. You remember them well.
Oh, man.
One of the worst Major League Baseball teams in history. And this is not even over yet.
I love the BS. They were great. It was my favorite team. The 1911 BS, my favorite team. I'll tell you what.
Boston really couldn't figure out that whole team thing.
Everything, like the Bean Eaters, the Braves, right? The Browns. Yeah, they've had a lot.
And then they went with the Red Sox, which is just copying us. So there you go, Boston. Get your own damn team. And White Sox, Tom bringing up, AJ is rumored to be the next Sox manager. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's more stuff that's pressing with the Chicago White Sox. One of those being today's starting pitcher, Garrett Crochet. Crochet talked before today's game, so let's hear from him about going through the trade deadline process, hearing his name circling around through rumors, and then we'll talk about Crochet, how he's been performing in July and so forth. But here's Garrett Crochet on his plans to get through the trade deadline on July 30th.
In terms of that, it's, it kind of just is what it is. Right now I'm focused on pitching for the White Sox, and beyond that I'm not really controlling much.
So that is a false report or true report? Confirm or deny it?
No comment. Right now, I'm just focused on pitching for the White Sox.
Pedro said that there's been no red flags in terms of your health and your how you're doing physically from starting this year. How would you just kind of sum up how things have gone from that recovery standpoint?
Yeah, they've gone well. With all the work that I put in this offseason, I expected it to go well. I'm most happy with not only my health, but the way that, my stuff's maintained throughout the season. When I was coming out of the pen, I guess my last full, Mr. 21, there were weeks where maybe my slider wasn't there, my fastball command wasn't there, but, I've kind of had my good stuff for the most part, every time I step out there. And I feel like my pitchability has gone up, so it's working out well, yeah.
Did you have before the season started, a number of starts in mind that you want to make if you were healthy the whole way?
I think that at this point I've exceeded any expectations that I had.
Is Sunday going to be strange for you at all, knowing that it might be the last time?
No, to even think about it that way, I'd be putting way too much pressure, on what's ultimately just another start.
How much are you looking forward to Tuesday being over, and you can just focus on whatever the rest of the season is?
Yeah. Ultimately, I know that there's a lot of noise, but I don't think it's really had an effect on my performance or the way I go about every day. So, whether it's Tuesday or not, I'm not really too worried about it.
I mean, I don't know how I would feel if I was Garrett Crochet in that situation, being asked, and you heard him say, hey, how does this compare to your expectations? And he was like, I probably couldn't expect this for myself. I didn't even think I'd be a starter, and here I am as an all-star, as a starter on top of it. So I get the responses there from Crochet, but I thought what was most telling was when he did get pushed a little bit, and it's just like, man, don't make me answer that. I don't want to be on this team, and I would love to be on a playoff team. I mean, who wouldn't? Yeah. So I don't think that Crochet would be unprofessional at all. I don't think that today's, poor performance in quotations led because he was thinking about the trade deadline. I mean, he's a guy that has seen Seattle before, has a very limited repertoire, and I think we saw that repertoire get attacked today. I mean, he's got two pitches basically, and they're two very good pitches, but it did seem like he ran into a wall of where Seattle had the right game plan. He got smacked around a little bit.
Yeah, and we've seen this on Friday. Remember, Drew Thorpe's first major league start was in Seattle versus the very same Mariners, and he acquitted himself very nicely. That ballpark is a great ballpark, as I said at the time, to make your major league debut or any start. As you can see, the Seattle hitters up and down the lineup don't really do anything as far as hitting. On Friday, they had a game plan versus Drew Thorpe, and they executed it to a T. They had already seen him. They knew that his pitch was a changeup, so they sat back. And anything else, they crushed. And so they pretty much did the same thing. They seen Garrett Crochet early in the year. I think Garrett Crochet threw like 13 strikeouts versus the Mariners in Seattle, and they had a game plan versus them today. And one of the game plans is for Randy Arozarena to hit the smallest, shortest balls down the third base line and score. And then right after that, Cal Raleigh get hit over the fence. So, yeah, I didn't think he pitched poorly. He was not helped by his defense, namely Paul DeYoung making 2 errors in that same inning where he gave up multiple runs. And so, yeah, I think Garrett Crochet is a professional. He locks in on what he needs to do the day he needs to do. That film is from, Friday or Saturday? Yeah. They usually don't speak on the day of their start. So, yeah, he was locked in on what he needs to do. I hope it's not his last start for the White Sox, because there's been rumors both on his agency saying he won't be pitching for a team in October unless he's getting a contract extension, and then also rumors that, oh, no, I want to pitch. I want to pitch for any team that'll be in the playoffs, because the juxtaposition is the worst team in baseball, the White Sox. And he knows he won't be pitching for postseason for the White Sox anymore after this year. And so, yeah, I'm glad that Garrett Crochet and his team have grabbed onto the leverage. And I hope that the truth is that he wants a contract extension before October if he's traded to one of these teams, because that's his only leverage. Otherwise, he could just be traded to any team the White Sox team fit, and it might not be a team that is cognizant of his arm like the White Sox are, and just say, hey, we want to win the playoffs, and you're making $800,000 this year. Throw your fucking arm off in the playoffs. If I was Garrett Crochet, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that unless you make a commitment to me for real money. So if I do throw my arm out, I still got some financial incentive behind me.
I want to talk about that commitment and maybe if the White Sox would make that commitment if he's still on the team past the deadline. But Edward saying, does it really matter with this team who they trade away? This whole organization is terrible. And while I understand that pessimism, you look at the Rays and they think they've made 4 trades so far this deadline, and I think they've gotten, 8 to 11 prospects. We saw what the White Sox farm system did after last year's trade deadline. To make this organization look a lot better than terrible, they need to start flipping and churning some of these players and get younger talent in, and that's really just leading to trades. I think it would be shocking if Erick Fedde wasn't traded. I think it would be shocking if Tommy Pham wasn't traded, but Crochet, it wouldn't really be shocking because you want to get this deal absolutely correct. When there is so much talk about extensions, their agency is pushing their cards a little bit on the table, saying like, hey, we would be willing to sign an extension. Do the White Sox, I brought this up before. I'm going to continue to bring it up until it's either, he's on a different team or not. Why wouldn't Garrett Crochet sign an extension with the White Sox? You can probably look at that response and say, oh, well, maybe he doesn't believe in the team's future, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. I think what people care about at the end of the day, especially when you're 25 years old, is guaranteed money.
Yes.
And you can guarantee yourself at least $50 million, at least if you're signing a 3-year deal. And you look at the positives of trading for Garrett Crochet right now, young, controllable, cheap arm.
Yes.
If he signs a deal, especially with arbitration next year, he is not going to be making a ton of money. And we talked about the value of Dylan Cease this year only making $8 million because he was still in arbitration. Crochet's number is going to be lower than that $8 million, even if you do extend him. Mm-hmm. So I think there's all of the reason in the world to make sure you maximize Crochet's value, and I think even if you extend him, you can still get a ton of value back for him because it's a young, controllable arm. And if he goes out to start 2025 doing the same old stuff he's doing so far in 2024, yes, there was some home run troubles today, but for the most part, Garrett Crochet has been great. If he comes out in 2025 and is great again, that price is only going to go up higher. So I'm fine with the White Sox kind of walking this balance beam of, will we trade him, will we not? Because if the right package isn't on the table because of the way CEAA is playing their hands, the White Sox might just have to, sit on their hands and hold on to Garrett Crochet. Oh, no.
And I think it's best for both sides if an extension is worked out, if he's not traded before Tuesday's deadline, for the White Sox and Garrett Crochet. You got cost certainty for the White Sox. If they move forward with him, however many years it is, I know the White Sox would more rather have him go through arbitration 2 years because it's inexpensive. But if you want to keep a talent like that, you got to extend him and take a couple of those free agency years away. Maybe 2 of those so Garrett Crochet can have another bite at the apple. And then if the White Sox still want to trade him in the offseason, that's even more incentive for the White Sox and more return for the White Sox because you have cost certainty for Garrett Crochet. The team who's acquiring him knows that, firstly, he's a starter and he has an amount of innings to be a starter in your 2025 rotation. Secondly, he has a dead money. His money is exactly what you know. It's not going to be going up and down. You got him for more than 2 years if you acquire him now. I think it works out for everybody involved. So Garrett Crochet's people need to come together with the White Sox people and get an extension because I think the appetite for both sides is there for an extension. It's just the numbers. And if the White Sox are dealing with Garrett Crochet in a cheap fashion, which I would not put away, that's shame on them. I think it's a more smart, penny-wise, pound-foolish move or penny-wise move to actually have him extended for this team. And he has no leverage in that case otherwise. If you give him a 4-year deal, it takes 2 of his free agent years away. And then on the other side, he can say, hey, I made $20 million on my free agent years, which maybe I would have made on the free agent, but also now I'm guaranteed to make this money instead of maybe I'm risking the next 2 years of not being hurt. So if he's hurt, cool, he still makes his money.
Yeah, and P. Joe saying, why would Crochet sign an extension for this team anyways? There's so bad, no one will want to play here. Again, P. Joe, to that point, if no one wants to play there and they're so bad, why wouldn't they be in this exact same situation next year? And there's 50 million reasons why he would sign an extension or 50 million plus reasons why. If it's guaranteed money, you are guaranteed security for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I think $50 million is enough to retire on. That's the exact reason why, because everyone would love guaranteed money. Would he buy out a potential year of free agency? Sure. Would he be extending his time with a bad organization? Sure. But also that doesn't mean that he can't get traded in the 2025 deadline.
Yeah, you sign an extension, you can still get traded as Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, Herb. All right, let's take a break. We will get to the AJ stuff in a second. I see Van asking about it, and I see other people asking about it. We got some Erick Fedde stuff as well to get to. We do want to let you know about our friends over at Family Farms on Wednesday, July 31st. Hopefully the White Sox losing streak is still not going on. Our partners from Family Farms, along with our friends from Cajun Nation out of Lafayette, Louisiana, will be live in studio with us all day at CHGO to celebrate a little Mardi Gras in July. You've been down to New Orleans?
I have been down to New Orleans.
Beautiful place. You ever gone for Mardi Gras?
I went in August, which was the worst part. I should have went for Mardi Gras. It was a little cooler.
I went in June, not Mardi Gras, and it was the hottest damn place that I've ever been in my life. So anyways, join us for a watch along on Wednesday to see what they've got cooked up for us. All of us here at CHGO are excited to sample the great culinary surprises that Family Farms and Cajun Nation will be preparing for all of our shows throughout the day out on the Family Farms patio at CHGO Studios. Family Farms crafts the finest bacon wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that tantalizes taste buds since 1974. You can find Family Farms bacon wrapped chicken in the meat department at your local Woodsman's, Mariano's, and Burcott's. Experience the flavor that becomes a family favorite for generations. Visit your nearest Woodman's, Mariano's, or Burcott's, or click baconwrappedchicken.com. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Leinenkugel.
When the weather gets warm, just any beer won't do. You want something light, refreshing, and flavorful. Leinenkugel has a flavor for every summer moment. The perfect companion for great outdoors, the great American pastime, or great night hanging out with friends. Whenever I go to the ballpark, August 9th for the Cubs game, our takeover, you know I'm going to be grabbing myself a summer shandy because it's summer and it's delicious. If you want a beer that's similar to summer shandy that has natural lemonade flavor, you could try Lakeside Cherry with real cherry juice, or Grapefruit Shandy with natural white grapefruit flavor, or Honey Lemon Light with 99 calories and a sweet finish, plus classic crowd-pleasing brews like Leinenkugel's Light or Leine's Original. Flavor every summer moment with Leinenkugel's, the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to leine.com/CHGO to find a delivery option near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugel's pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugel's, flavor for the moment. Celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls.
Yes. And make sure you hit that thumbs up button. We're at Paul Konerko likes. We'd like to get to at least Gordon Beckham. Hey, maybe John Garland. Why not?
Double them up.
We're past AJ Pierzynski.
Let's go Lurie Garcia likes.
There you go. Hey, Yimi Garcia was back in Chicago. What was the last time he was in Chicago?
Man,
probably not 2021, Game 3 of the AL.
That's the only game that matters.
That's the only game that matters. And just to wrap up some crochet stuff, I don't know if you have any more stuff. We do have some Fedde stuff to get to, but Kevin throwing out Bob Nightingale's tweet today after Crochet's finished. I think that it's tough to take what Bob says at full, especially on Twitter.
Yes.
At full, I don't know.
Face value?
Face value. It's a good point. What Bob said, in likely what will be Garrett Crochet's last start with the Chicago White Sox, he goes 3 innings, giving up 6 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. Again, that is likely be his last White Sox start because we don't know. I don't think that we have a clear, definitive answer on if he will or will not be traded. I think it's truly up in the air. And I think the thing that's most been surprising is you see a decent amount of activity over the past 2 days throughout Major League Baseball. You see the Yankees acquiring Jazz. You see the Rays trading basically everybody and their mother off their team. There have been a really decent amount of returns. I've really thought that the teams that have been selling or buying, they've given up a pretty decent price tag. So if we've taken in all the rumors, the Yankees wanted Crochet, but apparently they weren't giving up Spencer Jones. The Dodgers were interested in Crochet, but they didn't really have enough to get him. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's a team out there that can pay the price for Garrett Crochet or Luis Robert Jr. Also, I know Roberts had like a horrible, last 25 plate appearances or something like that?
Yeah.
I do not care. Luis Robert Jr.'s price has not changed because of the past 25 plate appearances. He is still cheap, affordable, and has like a 4.240 or something. I mean, he is an incredible athlete. But the main point being, we don't really know.
Yeah, and I think
what's going to happen.
I think Chris Getz, as you were talking about, I know doesn't care that Luis Robert hasn't been Luis Robert this last couple of years, this whole year. He's not going to trade him for pennies on the dollar. He will get exactly what he asked for, or he'll hold on to him. There'll be no reason for him to trade. And same thing with Garrett Crochet. I think there's no urgency for either of those two players. The urgency goes with Erick Fedde. The urgency most definitely goes with Pham or in Paul DeYoung. Those guys should not and cannot be on the team after Tuesday's game or after Monday's game. Tuesday will be the deadline. And like they can keep the other two guys and work out a trade with another team in the offseason. So there's no urgency to trade away Luis Robert. There's no urgency to trade away Garrett Crochet. And I hope that Bob's wrong about that, because I know these teams are not going to come to the table for who Garrett Crochet really is. And the worst thing I would have happen is Garrett Crochet go out to be Garrett Crochet on those teams, and we traded him for a lesser version of what we thought Garrett Crochet would have been. Like in the next 2 years, he's a Cy Young Award candidate, and we're trading him for, hey, he's a first-year starter with innings limit type of deal. You know what I mean? Like, we're not trading him the correct way. And I know Chris Getz, based on his Dylan Cease trade, is going for that type of mode of I'm trading him for who he's going to be, not for who he was or what he is right now.
And we appreciate Joey P. Super Chat. Joey P. saying, Getz is going to wait until all the best prospects are traded before trading anyone. Keep up the great work, my guys. Appreciate it. Joey.
Sports Bumps. Good job, Joey.
He was at Chuck's today, too.
Yeah.
Chuck's is a great place
over
at 79th and Burbank.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. And it's a little way west of Bogan, but shout out to Bilal Muhammad, a Bogan Bengal. But anyways.
We got the names.
I guess that's my, what? The Bengals?
Yeah.
Well, so shout out to Al Philon, who's now dead. In high school, having a teacher that was stabbed by a woman of the night was definitely a ground-shaking moment. But that man used to threaten us because we went to a very nice Catholic private school, and he would threaten us by sending us to 79th and Cicero or 79th and Pulaski to go to Bogan if we were, knocking off. Anyways. Yeah, I think, at least to that part, Joey, I don't know who would be acquiring Crochet or Robert at this point. Mm-hmm. I don't think the Orioles are going to be going after a big fish like that, either Robert or Crochet. We saw Dombrowski be aggressive and get Carlos Tevez from the Angels, but it seems like that was a really hefty price to pay. We've seen the Yankees go out and get Jazz, but it doesn't seem like they want to go out and get Garrett Crochet and pay that true price. I don't think that Crochet will get traded. So there you go. I don't know. I think I don't know. Sorry. Grumpy Pig saying Robert is having a bad year. Look at all his stats. Be a media guy, not a fan. Yes, he has a 99 weighted runs created plus, but if you actually look at him, it seems like his plate discipline's been fine. He still hits the ball hard as hell. It seems like he just needs to have a decent August, and his stats will be normal.
I'm not trading. Well, I'm not trading Luis Robert just because you think he had a bad year. And yeah, I'm definitely a guy that knows that Luis Robert is not the guy that shows up this year.
Well, and then hold on to him next year too.
Yeah,
because I mean, he's probably going to be fine next year. Like, it doesn't seem like his athleticism, his power has been taken away by the injuries. No. And that seems to be the biggest concern about him, is the injuries and the durability and the ability to stay healthy. He's been able to stay healthy. I know the results haven't been there, but he just needs a crazy, next 25 plate appearances to turn it around. And maybe once the deadline's passed and he's done thinking about all the trade rumors, we'll see him flip that switch. I don't know. But I don't think that a team is out there that can actually go out and get Crochet or Robert. I think Fedde and Pham are out there. We heard, I think it was Heyman mentioned that the Braves and White Sox are talking.
Yeah.
I don't think the Braves would have enough to get Luis Robert Jr. It doesn't seem like their farm system is plentiful enough. But maybe Erick Fedde, our guy Reynaldo Lopez, had to leave the game today with, I think it was forearm tightness. He's day-to-day according to the Braves. But maybe Alex Anthopoulos and Chris Getz are re-talking about Erick Fedde.
Or maybe Pham.
Or maybe both. Let's go to Erick Fedde. Erick Fedde talked about wading through these swirling trade rumors.
I guess just like stay off social media, but yeah, my friends ask, of course, everyone's curious. It's just something that I guess comes with the territory. If anything, I try to look at it as it's a 180 in the career. I was sent away. Now, possibly a trade piece that people are willing to give up stuff for. So if anything, I look at it as a compliment and something that I hold my head high about.
So gratified that you've got to this point of success that teams want you to pitch for a contending team.
Yeah, 100%. And I hope it means that I try to say in a way I'm glad Getz and the White Sox took a big chance on me and hopefully made them proud.
If it ends up being another team crossed your chest in a couple days, trade aside, record aside, what's your opinion on your experience as a White Sox?
It's been great. It's been a pleasure to work with Katz and Benny. They've put a ton of time into me, making me the best pitcher I can be. Obviously, it's been tough. We haven't won a ton of games, but this has been a great clubhouse. My starting staff has been amazing. Just the guys I get to grow with, and I've enjoyed my time for sure.
Is this time of year really underlined for all players that this is a business? Obviously it coming in, but this time of year where your families and everything is up in the air, whether you're going to be in one city or another, it can't be easy.
Yeah. It comes with the territory. We're well compensated athletes. It's part of the job. Something that you just have to deal with. I'm sure lots of people have things that are uncertainties in their lives, and this is just the one that comes with ours.
It's just been kind of crazy the way that this has not paid off yet at all. We still have Erick Fedde here. We still have Tommy Pham here, Crochet, Robert. I would be anxious if I was in that White Sox clubhouse too, just because anytime you look at your phone, you expect the news to be there. Danny Jansen walked into the Blue Jays clubhouse and looked at the TV and saw he was going to Boston. Look at that. Nice way to know. You have to move.
And then he replaced his old buddy, Reese McGuire. Yeah. His right-hand man, if you will.
Oh, yeah, former Blue Jay, great. All right, let's take a break because Vinny's about to join us. But I think Erick Fedde, he should get a decent amount of haul, but what we've heard so far is that the White Sox really haven't been thrilled with what they've been offered. I don't know if that's changed with the way that the trades have currently shaked out, but it seems like people are willing to pay, 3 top 10 prospects to get a player. I think the White Sox could probably get 2 top 7 players for a guy like Erick Fedde with the control that he has.
Should. He's the best starting pitcher that is actually available on the market if you take Garrett Crochet out of that mix.
Yeah. Let's take a break. Then we'll head out to Guaranteed Rate Field to talk with Vinnie Duber, our pal. We want to let you know about our friends over at Shady Rays. The sun is coming back out a little bit here in Chicago, but get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product that's rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style, and they probably have a style in your favorite team's colors. It's very easy to match black with anything like black. Also, we love our Shady Rays. I've had my pair for about 2+ years. They haven't broke every single time I go to use them. They're crystal clear. I never knew what the word polarized meant before I had Shady Rays, and now I know. So there you go. And they're affordable, too. So if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacement. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And we also want to let you know about our friends over at Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for candidates isn't to search. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other sites, according to recent Indeed survey. They leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, and Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you've heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Let's head out to Guaranteed Rate Field and talk to Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber and read his work at ALLCITY.com. Vinny, we played Garrett Crochet speaking on Friday. Did he have a different tone now that we are getting closer to this possibly being his last days in a White Sox uniform?
Not really. It seems like, and I don't blame him for this, seems like he's kind of sick of these questions. And, obviously they've been going for a long time now, right? The White Sox have been the worst team in baseball all year, and the idea of a trade deadline sell-off has been in the works since April, I think. So the idea that Garrett Crochet could be on the block has been kicking around for some time. He's gotten these questions for some time, and I think it's just a matter of just get to Tuesday at 5 p.m. or whenever it is and be done with this whole conversation in terms of how he's dealing with it. And I think Pedro kind of spoke to the fact that everybody's kind of feeling that way, not just with the White Sox, but he even mentioned, talking to other managers and the idea that this is not something I think that you want if you're trying to run a distraction-free clubhouse, right? And while certainly it's part of the business and people aren't, surprised by it, it's not something that, you want to be dealing with necessarily. So listen, Garrett Crochet has been fantastic this year. And as Pedro pointed out, rightfully, the reason he's getting these questions is because he's been so good, right? Because that's why he's in trade rumors, because he's been arguably the best pitcher in baseball for a good chunk of this season. And so, but in terms of, having to answer questions about potentially being traded, I think Garrett's ready for that to be over.
Garrett talked about his outing and how today was just a little different than it usually is, because it seemed like the Seattle Mariners had a game plan for him, and they were not just, the Randy Arozarenas besides, they were hitting him pretty decently in the innings that he was in there.
Yeah, here and there. I think there were a couple times when guys got on base with hits that didn't really go very far. You mentioned Arozarena did it twice in a row in the same spot. But there were other ones, obviously the ground balls to Paul DeJong that ended up being errors. And then, but there was then a big home run in the first inning as well. So it was a little bit of both. I think it was just one of those days where he wishes he had some pitches back. He wishes he had put guys away a little bit more, but also you can't really blame him exactly for some of that with the two errors that Paul DeJong made. I don't think it's a very sterling outing, but when you're only being given 65 pitches, and that could be a trend the rest of the way for Garrett Crochet, especially if he stays here on the South Side, you don't really have much to work with. I mean, we've seen games where he's had a bad inning and then he's gone and dominated the rest of the way. And so, I mean, if he had given up 3 earned runs, which is what he did in the first 3 innings, and then made it 7 or made it 6, obviously the pitch count was up there today, but and made it deeper into the game with some scoreless frames, we're not talking about it being a bad or even an unusual outing, because that's a quality start. So obviously today didn't go as well as he would have wanted it to, but I think that pitch number is probably the thing that stands out the most, and that's nothing that he can control right now.
Yeah, sits at 64, but what he can control is throwing the ball very, very hard. I want to take people through a journey here, because it was surprising to see in pitches 61, 62, 63, 64, him reach 99 miles per hour. I don't know if he talked about that, but Sarah, let's go to some graphs first. Let's go to the July one first. This has been since Garrett has had limited usage. July 6th, 4 innings pitched. July 12th, 2 innings pitched. He also pitched on the 17th, I think it was, for the All-Star game. And then on July 23rd, he pitched 4 innings. Today is not included, but I have included. I have another graph for today. So there you go. You could see. Oh, sorry. Can you go back to the July one? You could see that the start of July, he was kind of hovering around that 98 mile per hour line with his four-seam fastball. You could see that the cutter kind of has some fluctuation. I think part of the cutter fluctuation is just because sometimes the slider gets misidentified as the cutter, but the four-seam fastball, you can see that consistently from that 20th pitch pretty much to that 80th pitch, he's down about a mile and a half. So that is from July 6th to July 23rd. That's also including the All-Star game. If you want to go to today, though, you could see that he is doing the complete opposite, starting off low and finishing near 100 miles per hour. I don't know if Garrett talked about the finished velocity that he had today, or the finishing velocity that he had. If that's just him emptying the tank, what did we see from Garrett at the end of the game, if he talked about it?
He didn't, but I mean, I think you're onto something there in terms of maybe he knew, not maybe, I'm sure he did know how many pitches he was going to be allotted for today, and probably knew that was the end. Those pictures are interesting, and I think that the first one especially, is a reminder that this is still kind of a bit of a mystery where this is going to end up. I mean, I think to this point, my God, he's been fantastic. He's answered every question, but it doesn't mean that those questions have gone completely away. And while we can sit here and talk about what the results were through the first half of the season, there's a second half of the season, right? And he's got to be able to get through that. And the White Sox are limiting his usage for good reason, to be precautionary. I think they think that he's capable, certainly Pedro Grifol does, think he's capable of continuing to kind of go without limitation, even though that's not what's going to happen. But you can see why all these variables have been thrown into this discussion about whether or not he's going to get traded, because they are real. And this could just be a lull. This could just be an outlier. This could just be a down spell for him. But it's still worth asking, what does the rest of his year look like in terms of what he's physically capable of doing? While the White Sox are adamant there have been no red flags yet in terms of how he's recovered, how his body has responded to this big jump in innings, it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be any, or it doesn't mean that he's just going to be completely perfect the rest of the way. So it's definitely something, obviously, worth watching, whether you're the White Sox or a team that ends up with Garrett in the next couple of days, because while everything to this point has been great, the rest of it is still an unknown.
I just want to add on to that the stuff that they might be looking at to monitor his health. His extension stayed about the same, so he's still being able to perform the same way. He's still being able to expand those muscles, contract, whatever. I don't work out. I don't know how to speak about it. But he's still, fully extending on his pitches. His release point has stayed the same as well, both vertically and horizontally. Just really like point inches away from being on, but still typically around like 2.6, 2.7 to for his horizontal release, and then about like 6.1 to 6.0 on his vertical release. So it does still seem like it's coming out of the same slot each and every time. Maybe not with the same velocity, but I mean, you saw the way today's game ended. He was fantastic.
I mean, any starting pitcher is going to have lulls, and dead arm periods during their season doesn't necessarily mean that they're hurt. But as you saw today, he ramped it up for the 3 innings, and that last inning where I looked at, he's like, he definitely thinks that he's going out of the game, because he was just throwing fastball to that last hitter he was facing, Rivas. And so, it's good that he can go reach back for an extra 6 inches and get that 100-mile-per-hour fastball back there. But, Vinny, are you surprised that with one game to go that there's been no movement by Chris Getz in his front office as far as trades has gone?
A little bit. I think the main thing that jumps out to me in favor of them not having done anything yet is that it took baseball a while to start doing stuff. And so, you don't necessarily have to be the first out there. And when you're a team that has some of the most, the hottest commodities, so to speak, right? Maybe that does take until the end as teams kind of continue to submit bids and stuff like that. Maybe there's a little bit more intensive conversations that need to be had that do kind of take you up to the deadline there. But on the other hand, and I've talked about this a bunch already, there continue to seem to be easy deals that can be made, right? Someone sees Paul DeJong hit a home run, reminder that he's almost near 20, and say, I'll take the pop off the bench for my infield. Here's a low-level prospect, deal, done. Oh, John Brebbia is out there. He's a reliable reliever with a track record. Sure, done. Tommy Pham, right? Tanner Banks, right? I mean, there seem to be guys who aren't the tippy top of the market here that you'd think a deal would be relatively easy. And you've seen deals for relievers already, right? And you've seen teams who are selling. Look at Tampa Bay, right? I mean, they've traded 6 players already. I mean, I'm not saying that one team is better at selling than another or anything like that, but those peripheral deals seemed, I'm not in on the conversations, but seemed to be something that could be done independent of more complicated conversations over players that would cost a lot more. Now, obviously, the White Sox haven't made any trades yet, and so they haven't gotten what they wanted yet for anybody. And that's, fine. That's what Chris Getz's job is to do, is get the best return for his team. And if he thinks he needs to wait a little bit longer to get that done, then there you go. But yeah, I mean, as activity picks up, you would think that the White Sox would be involved, at least in some small way, because they've got so many guys that we think could go here. And now we're getting down to it, and it's what? We're 48 hours away from the trade deadline, so.
Yeah, well, and I think we put the over-under at like 7.5 at some point, probably about like less than a month ago. And now you mentioned it. I mean, the Rays have traded like 6 guys in the past 48 hours, but the Rays have always done this. And this is a new front office for the Rays. Bendix left Tampa to go to Miami, and he's trying to restart it in Miami. So they have a whole new front office similarly to the White Sox. And when you hear Jerry Reinsdorf, when they're replacing Kenny Williams with Chris Getz, it's one of the things I owe the fans is to get better as fast as we possibly can. Speed is of the essence. I don't want this to be a long-term proposition. You lose a year, and I had somebody on the inside who was very, very competitive. I then came to the conclusion that if I had someone on the inside who can do the job, why not do it inside and save a year? And we look at this team, and they're what, 27 and 80? 27 and 81. I mean, they absolutely lost a year. And you look at Tampa, I don't think expected to be in this situation. Obviously, they have a very unique situation with what happened with their shortstop that we don't need to get into. But they were expected to be a team that competed for the AL East. And their plans changed extremely fast, and they were able to go out and sell. And they were the first ones to go out on the market and identify players that they either liked that they could fix with Morel, or pitchers that they could improve with Clausen. Like there's a team out there with the Rays that have done rebuilding right each and every year, that know how to deal with a limited market, a limited budget, and they've been able to produce winners. The White Sox, I don't think, can do that. And someone brought up Ozzie, right? The White Sox haven't been good since Ozzie, okay? The White Sox before Ozzie had an 88-year World Series drought. And then after Ozzie have had, gone to the playoffs twice? So it's not like it's an Ozzie thing. I think it's an organizational thing. And then when you have the leader of the organization making half-hearted replacements of guys that have been there for 15 years, this is what I think it leads to. And I don't want to be sounding the alarms just yet. And I don't think it's a mistake of Chris Getz to not trade Crochet or Robert at this deadline. But if he's only trading 2 guys and it's Fedde and Pham, like that's a red flag to me. If he's still not able to move guys like Brebbia or Banks or whomever, Kopech, right? I think this is a huge failure. So yeah, I'm getting a little concerned with us being 48 hours away from the deadline.
I mean, I suppose that's reasonable for a fan to be concerned that way. I think, certainly for the White Sox, this is set up to be the most meaningful part of their season, right? I mean, we're looking at a team that might end up setting the modern record for single season losses. And so if you're talking about the biggest gains that can be made this year, you would think it would be right now in terms of adding talent to the farm system and making progress for the future just in terms of who you're bringing in. I think that judging the job that Getz and that whole front office is doing based on who they're able to trade at this deadline is maybe a little bit of an over exaggeration, because what are the opportunities to add that talent? It's Crochet, it's Robert, it's Fedde. Then you go basically to everybody else, and it's lottery tickets, right, is what you're going to get back. Now, that's not nothing, and they should be able to. They should certainly do that, because you're seeing the failure of that strategy in Mike Clevenger being out for the year. They can't get anything for Mike Clevenger. That signing failed if the idea was to bring him in here to try and get something at the trade deadline. But there are still opportunities in all the guys you just listed. And so you would think that those guys who are on expiring deals, who aren't going to be here next year, would certainly need to be traded, even if it is for some of that little stuff. So I think, I don't think you can pin the progress of this rebuilding project on whether or not they get a single A guy for John Brebbia, right? But the idea of signing those guys in the first place was to do this. And so in that little realm there of why did you spend that money on John Brebbia? Why did you spend that money on Tommy Pham? It's not a lot of money, but for a team that apparently is watching the payroll very closely, that money was basically spent to get yourself something at the trade deadline. And so if you're unable to do that on certain fronts, whether that's you can't find a taker for Paul DeJong, or you can't find a taker for Nicky Lopez, or already you will not be able to find a taker for Mike Clevenger, right? Then that money was spent for what reason? And again, we're talking in terms of baseball dollars, we're talking very, very little. So those are, for the most part, those are low risk. Those are small risks that they took, but they exist. And so I understand why there is a focus on that right now. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest opportunities for him to hit a home run, so to speak, in terms of bringing talent into the organization, we've talked about for weeks now how those might not happen. How you might not find somebody who thinks Luis Robert Jr. is as good as you think he is, or you might not find somebody who thinks that Garrett Crochet and the uncertainty is worth paying what you want for him right now. So we'll see what happens here in the next 48 hours. But certainly the fact that they haven't done anything means that any moves that they're going to make, and this is some crack analysis, are going to happen soon.
Very, very soon. And I guess that's and just we got to take a break here. If you want to scroll up, Sarah, it's just to Slush Poppy saying how much of a delay is Getz slow playing things due to his inexperience and fear as a GM. I think if you look at you look at the Cease situation, there wasn't this type of deadline and there wasn't this type of other ferocity in the market. They were the only player right at that point that had a Dylan Cease that was up for trade. So I think at least in this moment, we haven't seen Getz at a deadline. And I think that, there might have been some kind of waiting in those waters to make sure they got the best deal. And it's possible maybe the best deal for a Crochet or Robert has been out the door.
Sure. This question, Herb, you've asked this question a ton this year, and I've seen it from fans as well. And it's like, I think we got to stop with that question until we have reason to see it, reason to ask it, right? I mean, the idea of like, is Getz getting pantsed by the rest of the league because this is his first year doing this? Like, he's been an assistant GM for like a decade. Like he's been watching people do this. It's not like he pulled us off the street and we don't have anybody's phone number and they're prank calling us. You know what I mean? Like I think that I get the idea of, hey, the White Sox made this move in hiring Chris Getz and it was more of the same. And so fans are frustrated and they don't know what to expect is going to be different from what they saw from Rick and Kenny. I get all of that part of it, but I think you see first year. I mean, you can't become a GM without being a first year GM at some point. And so I think that that question specifically is a lot of Sox fans looking for him to screw up. And I think he might screw up, but you got to wait until he does before you try to look for the reasons why he's going to, if that makes any sense.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm always Sox don't deserve the benefit of doubt, especially how they hired Chris Getz. And so that guy will never get the benefit of doubt until he proves me wrong. And so, yeah, he spent 7 years as the assistant general manager, 7 bad years as assistant general manager, where that farm system was shit. So that's where I'm coming from on Chris Getz. That's why I'm always skeptical on where he comes from. I don't necessarily need to give him a clean slate because he was hired as a person that was just in the building and, oh, yeah, you can be the guy.
Right, and also the guys that are going to be buying are running out of ammo, right? There's less teams with ammo, and that's the one concern why I might be sounding the red flags, not because they're 50 games under 500. The season was over when they took the field on March 28th, but it's mainly just about Erick Fedde and making sure that you are getting the most possible for that piece because, again, if he is found money, you want to be able to get the most money on the dollar. All right, let's take a break. We want to let you know about our friends over at Ray Chevrolet. Choose Ray Chevrolet as your first draft pick and find the right new Chevy and price for you. Visit our partner this July to shop the Freedom to Save sales event going on all month long at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at RayChevrolet.com. It's one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest. You'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Plus, you can find the perfect new tailgating vehicle. Right now, you can get $12,000 off MSRP on a new 2024 Chevrolet Silverado or lease the new 2024 Chevy Trax for only $188 a month for 24 months. Or you can cruise until July your own way and shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you've also heard of the Race Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changes, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about now, you can expect to see the very same when you shop Ray Chevrolet in-store or online. So shop the Freedom to Save sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's Trev.
On this channel that you're watching right now on YouTube or listening to on your podcast, we have podcasts and live shows every team, every day. Post-game shows like you're watching right now, and premium written content for members on ALLCITY.com from our folks like Vinnie Duber. And if you want to become a diehard, you get 20% off of events, including our last White Sox takeover of the year, which starts on August 9th. We'll be meeting at Turtles pregame and then walking over to the ballpark and in section 147. So get your tickets right now, allchgo.com/events, and go and look at the drop-down box for the date right there, August 9th, so you can get your tickets today. But right there, Sarah has put into the comments the way you can become an ALLCITY diehard member. You get 20% off of events, 20% off of merch. You get a free t-shirt like the one I'm wearing right now, or you can get other stuff included, like access to our diehard Discord, which our people talk about everything under the sun. Not just sports. They talk about food. They talk about their pets. Talk about gaming. They talk about the Olympics that are going right now. We have it all on our CHGO events or our CHGO Discord page, which you can access if you are a diehard member. And another event that we have coming up, our second annual Kickoff Classic at Cog Hill. It's coming up on August 23rd. Get your tickets now because they will sell out quickly. We just had our inaugural Cookout Classic, what was at St. Andrews this past week. And now we're going to be going back down to Cog Hill, which is a beautiful course. If you guys know what Cog Hill is all about. So get your tickets now right here. And as we are hitting the month of August, Bears games are coming up soon. And the CHGO Bears tailgates will be sold out. And we had a great time last year, even though they are terrible. This year, they look to be actually good. So come on, join us. CHGO tailgates will be 20% off if you become a diehard.
And the Bears just signed Dimitri Felton, so Super Bowl Super Bears.
I mean, who doesn't want to celebrate with us pregame and then go and watch Dimitri Felton take over the NFL with the Chicago Bears? No one? Okay, cool. You got
UCLA's finest.
You got dope merch for each team, free t-shirt when you become a member, and a members-only Discord. So sign up to be a diehard member today, and you get this black box too. Everybody gets a black box, becomes a CHGO diehard member.
Thank you, Herb. Make sure you do sign up for that diehard program. We got a White Sox Weekly newsletter that goes out each and every Monday as well, along with training camp stuff from our Bears guys. They've got the Bears fans covered 24/7. And if anything does happen, if the White Sox do make a trade, if they make a trade in 15 minutes after we end the show, unfortunately, we'll be doing an emergency podcast right away. So stay tuned.
Might be from our cars.
Set your notifications. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. All right. Do we have to talk about this AJ Pierzynski thing?
Yes, because people asked about it. We said we're going to get to it.
Okay. All right.
Can we not, though? Can we not?
I try. I honestly, I'm feeling two against one. I'm saying no.
Either way.
If
you guys don't want to, I'm cool with it.
3 against 1.
It's 3 against. What side are you? You don't want to talk about AJ Pierzynski?
No.
Why not?
Check my Twitter if you guys wanted the AJ answer.
Let's get into the AJ answer. Come on. It's important. Bob Nightingale in his notebook saying that the White Sox are the 2025 White Sox are rumored to be looking into AJ Pierzynski as their next manager. What do we make of this rumor?
It's a bad rumor. White Sox fans always complain about them hiring Robin Ventura with no experience. Guess the fuck what? AJ Pierzynski has 0 experience. You saw how that ended up. You don't want one of your favorite players, me, to become one of your managers and then him not become one of your favorite players. So no, and also no. Stop it, please. Jesus Christ. Just because this manager is not that good doesn't mean that you go and get anybody who's slightly better. He hasn't done it. He hasn't coached at any level in the majors. Stop it, please. Jesus. Just because you know him doesn't mean he's a good manager.
The exact report. Former All-Star catcher AJ Pierzynski has quietly emerged as a serious candidate to manage the Chicago White Sox in 2025 if they dismiss manager Pedro Grifol after the season, as expected. Vinny, do you think they're going to be dismissing Pedro Grifol after the season?
I mean, I think it's possible. We're not there yet, obviously, but we obviously know where the season is going. And I don't think there's probably a lot of managers in baseball history, if there are any, who have survived back-to-back 100-loss seasons, certainly as being their only 2 seasons, right? Listen, what Rick Hahn always used to say before he lost his job, which was very true, was this is the nature of the game, right? You don't succeed, you're held to a winning standard, whether it was your fault or not. And I know people have a variety of opinions about Pedro Grifol. What I will just say is he's the one who's presided over all this terrible losing, and some it will be 2 of, including this one being the worst seasons in the history of this franchise. So often when that kind of thing happens, people don't keep their jobs. But what I will say is this, is that we're a long way from a list of potential replacements, that's for sure, because he does still have his job at the moment. What I will say about this report is that we all didn't think that Bob's report about Tony La Russa being the next manager was made any sense at all at the time, and it ended up being correct. So when Bob says something about the White Sox, you tend to listen, or you maybe should listen, whether it ends up being the case or not, because lately he's been on a bit of a hot streak lately. We'll say that.
Yeah. To your point, I think you said you think it's possible for Pedro Grifol to be fired. I think it's also possible. I think it's also possible that they maybe book a Chicago architecture tour for him, and then they just kind of send that boat off to Lake Michigan.
Just keeps on going.
Yeah, they don't look for that one. You talked about a black box. They destroy the black box on that boat. They just send him out to sea. I do agree with people that AJ would be a better manager than Pedro Grifol, but maybe for like 2 games, and then that shit would run dry real quick. AJ, just to freshen this up for people, after he interviewed Chris Getz, the active general manager, who would be his boss, about 2 days later on his show, he said that he no longer is an ambassador for the Chicago White Sox for what he said. I don't understand a world where AJ Pierzynski is the manager of the White Sox, and if they don't start losing like this, if they don't have a 10-game losing streak, he's not calling out people, he's not being loudmouth like AJ typically is, and he's not getting fired. There is no way that AJ Pierzynski is diplomatic enough to be a Major League Baseball player. Ozzie Guillen obviously was wild, and everybody loved that, but Ozzie was a bench manager. Ozzie at least had some idea and had a previous relationship with the Chicago media. I understand that AJ has that prior relationship with the media, but he doesn't have that prior experience as a manager. This would be so Bush League, it's not even funny. I don't even think there's a Bush League below Bush League, but if it is, that's where this idea starts. Bob Nightingale's also said that Skip Schumacher is reportedly a candidate for the 2025 Chicago White Sox managerial job, and I think that's a great idea. Skip Schumacher, former manager of the year, seems to be ousted by a new Miami front office, was very good with the prior front office. I am so happy, and it is the right choice if the White Sox go and get Skip Schumacher. If they hire AJ Pierzynski to be the manager of the 2025 White Sox, I will drink battery acid on this show. I will battery acid from a car.
Don't do that.
No, I will. Do that. I promise you, I will.
Here's what I'll say is I'll say this: being a candidate does not mean you're going to end up getting the job. Correct.
Correct.
I would go back to the last time they hired a manager, which was fairly recently, when Pedro Grifol got the job, and while the whole point, certainly before Tony was hired, the whole stated point was to move away from folks with such strong ties to the White Sox. Right? There was a stated objective to get outside of that in terms of their hiring practices. That has been met with various results with the top jobs, obviously, over the last couple of years. But who interviewed for the job when Pedro Grifol got it? The aforementioned Ozzie Guillen. So is throwing an interview somebody's way the same as actually thinking that they're going to end up on the bench? And so would it surprise me if AJ Pierzynski was to be interviewed for the job, even if he doesn't end up getting it? You know, I mean, and maybe that's where we thread the needle here, and what Bob says actually, materializes perhaps. But I think that the idea of them moving away from folks who they know who are in the inner circle is probably the wish list, right? I mean, I think you saw it with the hiring in the front office that Chris Getz made after he got the GM job. It was like, he ended up being, through no fault of his own, he ended up being the poster child for that insular hiring. And then yet he turned around and went to other organizations to try to bring in some new ideas. So I would not be surprised if he is in charge of a hiring process, if he follows that similar path and tries to bring in some different vantage points.
I also feel like this is just a distraction from the real issues of the Chicago White Sox. Obviously, we can't do much about Jerry Reinsdorf owning the Chicago White Sox. He's 88 years old, and he's laid out the ways that he would not be the Chicago White Sox manager to Cranes earlier this year. But the issue with the Chicago White Sox is hitting. I mean, they are by far the worst hitting team in Major League Baseball, and it seems like we like the spot that they're in, hiring Brian Bannister, having him be the czar of pitching. It seems like he's been able to easily communicate an idea to Ethan Katz, and you even look up and down the minor leagues, pitching has been great. It doesn't feel like they have that on the hitting side, and it doesn't feel like that would be a conversation. It's more like, hey, we're going to be bringing in Timo Perez to interview for the third base coach. We're going to have Ben Davis come be a bullpen catcher with Drew Butera. It feels like they're not actually addressing the real issues. Manager is obviously an important position, but it's not the end-all, be-all, and I don't know. I would rather focus in on who's the hitting Brian Bannister next for the Chicago White Sox rather than who is the next, I don't know. What do you beat with something? You beat
a dead horse?
Yeah, sure.
But also the AJ thing, you're bypassing a guy in your system. If you want to be insular, there's this guy in your system that you just got at showing you can manage, and whatever that means, in Sergio Santos down there in AA. So you're bypassing him, who I think is a future manager in the major leagues that would be decent. Of course, any manager needs the players, needs the actual good talent to go with it. But if we're going to be looking for somebody who's got leadership skills and also a track record for winning, Sergio Santos need to look no further than him. So I'll be mad on multiple fronts if AJ Pinsky got a serious consideration from this White Sox team and or got the job.
Yeah, I think especially with how bad things are, you saw the way that Baltimore flipped their team from 2021. It was going and hiring Mike Elias and basically making them the Houston Astros. I don't think that going and hiring AJ Pierzynski and making the White Sox foul territory is going to be the way to make them World Series contenders.
Aircraft's going to be here.
I digress, yes. And Todd Frazier, he's back, which probably means Hawk Harrelson is back.
Yeah, yes. Hey, let's start thinking about this again.
I'll
tell you what. If we AJ back, we get Hawk back. Mercy, I'll tell you what.
Be slapping a black and white sign that says TWTW. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Again, just to address the comments real quick, hit the thumbs up button. We appreciate it. We're at Michael Kopech likes. Maybe he'll get traded. We will have an emergency podcast for any trades that do go down. But a grumpy pig and friend saying 45 games under 500, but it's not that bad. Again, we're not trying to say that it's not that bad. This is the worst season in Major League Baseball history from pretty much any Major League Baseball team. And there have been 4 teams with 2 14-plus game losing streaks in the same season. Your 2024 White Sox are one of those, the 2021 Orioles, the 1935 Boston Braves, and the 1911 Boston Statistics. So you know it's a real good list to be on with the 1911 Boston Statistics. They are a horrible baseball team. Yeah,
there was a team named the Statistics.
Yeah, we talked about this before you joined. Boston really couldn't figure out the mascot thing. They were the Braves, the Bean Eaters, the Browns, the Red Sox, and they're just stealing the White Sox name right there. Boston had a lot of difficulty with baseball team naming.
The Statistics. That's incredible. That's so boring.
It's so boring. But hey, that's like the guy that created WAR, I think, named that team. It just when you're a statistics guy, it just bleeds through everything. Anyways, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. We will be on alert if any trade happens in the next 48 hours. We have a show tomorrow that is scheduled for a post-game show. We will likely be doing that show regardless of what happens with trades. That will be the next time you see us unless breaking news happens. So subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel and make sure you hit that notification button so you don't miss out when we go live for any emergency podcast. That's Vinnie Duber. You can read him at allchgo.com. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at ExtraWall23. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show, and thank you to everyone for hanging out with us. Hit that thumbs up button. We'll talk to you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.